morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio, so today we need to take a look at the first secret rares that are coming around for Wild Force and Cyber Judge, and yeah, these ones look awesome. And I am absolutely delighted. Of course, I told you back in Paradox Rift, that's the most recent set we got. That was the first Paradox Pokemon set. I told you that there were 2 Paradox Pokemon that were missing. There were exactly 2 Paradox Pokemon that we had in Scarlet and Violet that hadn't gotten cards of any description. And they were Iron Fawns and Fluttermane, which was made even weirder because they were on the artwork for the special illustration rares of Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant, but yet didn't get their own cards. Well, I told you the other day that they are getting their own cards. Now they are getting illustration rares as well. And let's start off with Iron Fawns, because this is a card that makes me very, very happy. And obviously I'll leave the regular on screen as well. And look, the regular one is lovely. But look at this illustration rare, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the artwork. Look how beautiful it is. Bask in all its glory. Matsuno here doing a fantastic job. So, yeah, this is kind of amazing. And as far as I am aware, this is actually the first illustration rare done by Matsuno. And only the 5th card overall. I'm going to look on PKMNcards.com, and at least up to and including Paradox Rift, this is it. We've had the Sharpedo from Obsidian Flames, the Frogadier from Obsidian Flames, the Kingdra from Paradox Rift, and the Zacian from Paradox Rift. Incidentally, all fantastic cards, especially the Sharpedo and Frogadier. Is it weird that they've done 4 cards before this and 3 of them were water type? Probably just a coincidence, honestly, but now they've done this one, and this one is awesome, and for what it's worth, I really like this card. Now, the Free Energy 140 is kind of meh, nobody cares. But we've got another attack here as well. For 1 lightning, 1 colorless energy, you reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Any future cards get discarded and you deal 70 damage for each one there. And then any other cards that are not future cards go back into your deck and you shuffle it and carry on with your life. And the way I see it, there's basically 2 ways that you play this card. Way number 1, you just have a real full-on future deck, and you really go hard into future cards, and then you just use this as an I don't know, maybe it will work out plan, and just try and smash here. Because if you hit with this, it's 350. If you hit 3, then that's 210. That's a decent number that will get a bunch of 2 prize Pokemon. 4 is 280, which gets everything up to, Stage 1 EXs and Pokemon V-Star. And then if you hit all 5, which I know you won't usually hit all 5, okay, I get that. But if you do hit all 5, then all of a sudden you do 350 and that KOs literally anything. Now, can you make a full-on future deck? Not really. You're struggling for draw power, you don't have any special energy, etc. But what you can do is use stuff like Techno Radar to go and search out your future Pokemon, and then get 4 extra in your deck, and things like Future Boost Energy Capsule to give yourself free retreat and let yourself do an extra 20 damage, which incidentally would put like 3 hits off this from 210 up to 230, which would then allow you to hit a bunch more Pokemon. Like your average Pokemon V has 220. So 210's just under, but 230 actually puts you just over. My point here is that this is actually a very potentially good card that can do a huge amount of damage. And here's a weird thing, right? I'm kind of loving future decks as a whole right now, but I'm also kind of loving lightning decks. Like within future, obviously, we've got Iron Hands, but then I'm a big fan of Raging Bolt. I think that one could be pretty gosh darn good moving forward as well. Although, don't forget, we've also got that other Miraidon, which I don't think is quite as good as the other Miraidon, but is also a future Pokemon, so that is something to bear in mind. We will almost certainly get it in our next set, but remember, in Japan, it is coming as its own deck. Need to remember to keep that straight. But the point is, you can either go, I'm playing a full future deck, let's roll, or you can, for instance, get to the late game and have a very, very small deck of cards, and then use something like Super Rod to go and put some Pokemon back in, and you can potentially get to a stage where you've legitimately got, like, 6 cards in deck and 5 of them are future cards, and then you use this in the late game to do just redonkulous damage. That's what I like about this. Yes, you can do it as a, I don't know, let's give it a go in the early game, but you can also do it as an, it's late game, I know what's in my deck, I've used stuff like Super Rod to put some Pokemon back, and I know that I'm actually going to hit well enough here. And let's not forget, it's a lightning Pokemon, so Electric Generator will work nicely here to accelerate some energy, if you need it to. And I just think this card is great, honestly. I love this card. I think I'm a Chargers fan, and let's not talk about how the season ended, but I'm also a Lions fan. I can have 2 teams, it's fine, they're in different conferences. But the point is, I've always wanted to play Lightning deck, so I can wear, like, my Chargers hat to a tournament, and it's giving away my deck a little bit. And I feel like this set is going, come on, Wassy, want to play some Lightning Pokemon, don't ya? And honestly, the answer is yes. Yes, I do. For what it's worth, yes, I know Raging Bolt isn't a Lightning Pokemon, it's a Dragon Pokemon, but it does use Lightning Energy, so that's where I'm going here. The other one we've had revealed is Fluttermane, and I don't like this one as much, but I still think it could be pretty gosh darn good. And yes, of course, let's admire the wonderful alternate artwork, which is stunning. This one comes from Takumi Wada. Now, I told you that it was kind of weird that Matsuno had only done 4 cards and none of them were illustration rares. Well, Takumi Wada's kind of the other way round. Now, Takumi Wada, for those of you that don't know, was an artist who did a bunch of Zelda stuff. That's where we knew them from initially. And actually, it's worth pointing out they did some concept cards, which were not actually real cards. But this is only the second real card they've done after the Aegislash from Paradox Rift, which was an illustration rare. So, whereas Matsuno had never done an illustration rare before, Takumi Wada has apparently only done illustration rares. Given their pedigree and given how amazing the 2 cards they've done that are illustration rares are, yeah, I kind of get it. Like, I can look at this and go, you know what? It kind of makes sense that they keep getting hired for illustration rares. It's hard to be upset about this. But what does Fluttermane actually do? Well, the attack is free energy, 90, and you put 2 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. It's fine, but I think it's fair to say it's not an attack about which we are getting particularly excited. Sorry. But then we've got an ability that says as long as this Pokemon is active, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities. And this is a basic Pokemon. Now, okay, although to be clear, it's, as always, as we see with this a lot of the time, it doesn't stop opposing Fluttermanes. So if you've both got a Fluttermane active, no basic Pokemon, yours or your opponents will have their abilities. But my point I'm getting at here is that this is pretty good. And yeah, there are plenty of Pokemon that are just going to ignore this and use their abilities. We know that Charizard is one of the best decks in the format right now. It's going to sit on the bench, it's going to evolve up, it's going to use its ability to accelerate energy. We know this. But there's things like Comfey, and that's what you're really going after here. It is things like Comfey, where these Lost Zone decks, they kind of need to have Comfey in the active, using flower selecting to draw a bunch of cards, but also get cards in the Lost Zone. That's how they get their deck rolling. So you leave this in the active, and you turn them off. Any deck that revolves around basic Pokemon, especially little basic Pokemon that sit in the active and draw, like Comfey. Another example would be Mew, but remember, Mew is rotating as this set comes out and becomes legal. So, as much as this would stop Mew, it's kind of a mute point, because Mew is unfortunately rotating as this set drops. But that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. Leaving it in the active, stopping your opponent. Yes, they can sit on the bench and use all of their abilities. It's not going to stop everything, alright? But it's going to stop stuff like Comfey that want to sit in the active and draw. It's fine. For me, I'm just loving this artwork, and of course, I kind of love the fact these were the two that got ignored first time round. I mean, they weren't ignored, they were clearly saved, is probably the way to phrase it. They were saved for this set, and they get their illustration rares, and life is good. But now it's over to you guys. Do you think Fluttermane could be a really good Pokemon to annoy your opponent? Do you think that Iron Thorns is as good as I think it is? Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at Lawasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. Like, for instance, getting shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Dojo, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and seems like a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.